Hi, everyone. This is Edie Summers, and I just wanted to do a really special presentation on how to reclaim your peace of mind living in this modern world. I know that we're facing a lot of uncertainty and stress right now, and I actually put together a webinar, and I wanted to share some of the insights that I have found and research and just anything I've run across that might help you kind of find your clarity, peace of mind, well-being, energy, and just kind of find that internal sense of um, locus and coming from a place of power internally. So I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, so uh, oh, I may actually be able. I'm just going to share the screen. It looks like I might be able to. I maybe could have uploaded something there, but I'm going to do it this way instead. Okay, here we go. So, how to live well in the modern digital age, reclaim your mental health, clarity, and peace of mind. And I will also be touching upon how this might transform maybe not only your life or energy, but also even for work. So, whoops, let's go back over here. I'm just going to scroll down here. So thank you so much for being here. And I actually created this as a webinar, but I just wanted to share it. You probably are seeing this on YouTube, but you might be seeing it on LinkedIn or maybe some of the other social media sites. So here are some of the highlights. How to reduce your stress, how to improve your sleep and energy, how to improve your confidence, both in yourself and in this world, how to reduce burnout and create work-life balance. I think a lot of people are seeking more work-life balance these days. And of course, more sleep and energy and all of that. How to feel more hopeful and present and find that clarity of mind. Usually what I have learned, both in my own journey and also in reading and research, is that peace of mind and mental health in some ways can be tied to finding that clarity of mind. How to feel more connected. So again, that would be tied also to better mental health. The more that we can feel connected, not only to ourselves, but to each other, because we are social beings, then hopefully that might help you experience better mental health. How to feel less fear and uncertainty. And again, that might help create more peace of mind. And even how to feel more productive and innovative and creative, both in your personal and professional life. So outcomes, hopefully this will help you feel and experience more hope, peace, and clarity. So, and also maybe even improve your mental health and create a habit of hope. This is an easy habit to implement. I know that habits can sometimes feel like they take a long time to develop, but this is hopefully one of the easier habits. And I just really quick note here. This is something I thought of a long time ago, and I just saw it kind of mentioned on social media, is that for any habit, don't think of what you're giving up. Think of what you can replace that habit with. So meaning another habit. Try to find a better habit that you can replace your current habit with that's no longer serving you. So back to these outcomes, learning how to invest more in your rest and improve your energy. I specialize in helping people improve their energy. I have a whole book out on the subject. It's called The Memory of Health. And it's for anyone who has chronic fatigue for any reason, whether that's due to burnout or even a chronic condition where chronic fatigue is a factor. So I talk about energy in terms of wellness, but also work. So in both capacities, really in all capacities. So another outcome might be learning how to get unstuck and clear your mind, learn maybe starting to look at what's beyond fear and uncertainty. And again, that comes back to creating that peace of mind. And so much of this is tied to mindfulness and really allowing yourself to live in the present moment, which I know isn't always easy to do, especially if there are some really challenging things going on, but there are tactics that you can do. Learning more tools for resilience, learning about compassion and practicing self-acceptance. And again, connecting to community. A big part of well-being and also mental health is feeling like you're connected. There's a favorite quote of mine by John Travis. It's called "Connection is the currency of well-being." So we'll talk about that a little bit, and consistency, how you can learn to be more consistent with your health habits, how that might improve your well-being, but maybe also your peace and maybe some other things as well. And then again, that's maybe more work related, but it could also be related to your personal life. It's feeling more creative, connected, innovative, productive, and even I would say feeling more open to possibility, because that's really, I think, what we all want to feel, is that sense of possibility, even when there are really difficult things going on. So we are facing unprecedented stress. Overstress is the new norm, and it's definitely not normal, in my opinion. Sources of modern stress include tech, work, weather, politics. These can all create uncertainty and fear. And did you know that burnout and chronic fatigue are on the rise? So 28% of employees experience burnout often or always, and 44% of employees report feeling a lot of stress from the previous day. But of course, as we all know, burnout and chronic fatigue are on the rise in our personal lives as well. So my hope for you, and really my hope for the world, and my wish for the world, is that we create more peace and clarity and mental health for ourselves and for one another. And I think this is something that is, even if people aren't necessarily always talking about it, we're definitely talking about mental health these days, but I really think people are also craving peace. They're craving union, transformation even, but it's really hard to get to transformation if you don't feel peace and clarity and mental health. So again, burnout and chronic fatigue, they're both on the rise at work and beyond. And 50% of the workforce is experiencing high levels of exhaustion and stress. I don't think this is really necessarily news, except for to see the statistics. I like statistics because it really helps you to see the numbers of what's going on. It really does feel, I believe, that we are stuck in anxiety, burnout, and overwhelm. Overwhelm is a sign of burnout. It's a really good way to know that you are either in burnout or headed toward it. And the new norm is now to be chronically stressed, I believe. And again, I don't think that's normal. So let's start with burnout. So what is burnout? So there are going to be a lot of definitions these days of what burnout is, but it generally started as being connected to work-related stress and is a manifestation of chronic unmitigated stress. It's also associated now with exhaustion, cynicism, and reduced efficacy. And again, I was mentioning that you might feel a lack of motivation, you might feel irritable, you might feel frustrated, and you might be experiencing sleep issues. And I'm sure a lot of this is going to sound really familiar to you. So other signs of burnout could include, like I was mentioning, insomnia or sleep issues or difficulty falling asleep, nightmares, changes in eating habits, headaches, stomach aches. I used to have a lot of stomach aches growing up. And I don't know if it was tied to anxiety. I think it was. I'm a more sensitive person. I'm what they call a highly sensitive person. So I had a lot of stomach aches growing up, and I kind of just had to live with them while I was going to school or even while I was at camp in the summer. And sometimes it'd be so intense that it was really hard to sit upright. But I would try to participate as much as I could, but there were some days when I couldn't go to school or I'd have to sit things out because I was in so much pain. Other signs of burnout, again, now burnout, I've also seen it in context of chronic illness and even financial problems, difficulty in relationships, being a caregiver. That's a big one. Perfectionism, being a student. And burnout can also occur from chronic stress. So when it comes to chronic illness, you can feel burned out just from having a chronic condition. And anyone who has a chronic condition or multiple chronic conditions knows what I'm talking about. So what helps burnout? More support is a really, really big one. Do what you can to cultivate your relationships. You don't need many relationships. You just need a few that are really supportive. And so do what you can on your end to make what they call bids, reach out to people. We're not going to have perfect relationships. It's really not. That's kind of it's hard to, I think, sometimes I know that we can struggle with relationships because we want them to maybe be more supportive or be more functional and less dysfunctional, but nonetheless, connection can really help you with burnout and many more things, mental health, well-being. So in order to sleep better and get that deeper sleep, manage your daytime stress. And there's so much more I could say about this. Managing stress during the daytime and all the time is really, really critical. You can do this through self-care practices, and self-care practices are going to be different for everyone. And I think I go a little bit deeper into this as we get more into this webinar, but I talk a lot about this in my book. I talk about it on my YouTube channel and a lot of my social media content and sites. Also, what helps burnout: more freedom and autonomy, more breaks at work. I think that freedom and autonomy would go a long way, including breaks, because people don't like to be micromanaged. People want a sense of knowing, having that confidence and that self-efficacy to know that they can do their jobs. I mean, it's not to say that we don't need managers. And by the way, managers can burn out a lot too. So again, now I have different webinars that go deeper into some of these topics. And again, we're just getting started in this webinar. So I think I do go deeper into some of these topics, but these are some of the things that might help burnout. Reducing job stressors, like what about less meetings? I personally like meetings because it's a chance to connect with people, but I can remember at one of the startups I worked with, even though I loved the startup and I loved working with the team and the people, sometimes, it can feel like if you have too many meetings, it's hard to get your work done too. So also take more off of your plate and off of your to-do list. Sometimes we don't need to do as much as we think we need to do. And a lot of times you can just focus on what's called your MITs, your most important tasks. And, a lot of times you can get rid of those excess to-do lists and they can be done later, or maybe sometimes not at all. And add in more downtime. And downtime is going to look different for everybody. It could be hobbies, recreation, outside of work activities that help you relax, and what I like to call offline time. Go offline. And this could be literally offline, or just take your brain offline so that you can get that slower wave brain waves with your brain even during the daytime. So deeper sleep is associated with slow waves in your brain, and you can also cultivate this during the day to help you relax more and mitigate burnout. And then flow, kind of getting more in a flow state, going with the flow. And there's a lot more I could say about flow. It was developed and cultivated by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. But getting into a flow state where you are working up to the edge of what you're capable of doing, but not so much that you're stressing out about it. And that's not the exact definition of it, but I think that definition works for when we're talking about burnout. So again, there's so much more I could say about this, and we're going to go deeper into some of these topics. So chronic fatigue, this is one of my main specialties. And again, my book, The Memory of Health, goes into great detail about anyone who has chronic fatigue for any reason. It's a huge book. There are tons of theories that I cover in there about what might cause chronic fatigue. And also I have a lot of tips in there about what might help your chronic fatigue. And everyone's situation is going to be different. So self-care, you want to avoid stressors or irritants. These can create inflammation in the body, chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation is deeply tied to chronic fatigue. And I go into this in great detail in my book. Sometimes this is also something I discovered, and also I saw in research, that small amounts of both positive stimuli plus nutrition can help your fatigue potentially. You want to learn, practice, and enforce boundaries with other people so that you're not kind of quote unquote leaking your energy or getting drained by toxic situations or toxic energy from other people, or people that are always kind of pulling at you but not giving. Give yourself permission to slow down and put yourself first. And this is a really big one. Listen to your symptoms as guides to well-being. So your body is always talking to you. And this is actually called technically interoception. And when I first developed chronic fatigue, I became aware of my body's voice on a much deeper level. And I was able to hear what my body was asking of me in order to feel better. So one thing that can help is kind of cultivating mindfulness, which I talk about right here, cultivating mindfulness in order to hear your symptoms more and maybe look at them as guides. Your body is trying to ask you to maybe, let's say, adjust what you're eating, adjust who you're engaging with, right? Coming back to boundaries, maybe adjusting your living situation, all of these signals. Sometimes I like to think of symptoms as signals from your body, and how mindfulness can close the gap between symptoms and well-being. And again, I go much deeper into this in my book, and I might touch upon this a little bit more in this webinar, but I have another webinar where I think I go a little bit deeper into chronic fatigue. And of course, I'm always creating content around this. You can always reach out to me if you have chronic fatigue and you'd like help or like to learn more. So also be aware of genetic vulnerabilities. And again, these are really deep topics, and I go into them in great detail in my book, The Memory of Health. Cultivate mindfulness. We were talking about that, and resiliency. Positive stress, building neuroplasticity. And also, it's not a cure-all, but if we can feel more hopeful and positive about our situation, even if we are experiencing chronic fatigue, major stress, burnout, even chronic illness, trauma, looking at life through a more positive lens can change your biochemistry. It can make you feel more hopeful, and sometimes it can impact outcomes. So you always want to give yourself a fighting chance. So, and again, these are very deep topics that I go into, and much deeper levels on in some of my other content, but I might have them a little bit more in depth here. So what depletes our energy? Tech is really big. I mean, just the electricity that goes into tech, right? Like, I can't be around electricity all day. It drains me literally. Poor sleep. If you don't get that slow wave sleep, that deepest level of sleep, that can make you feel tired during the day. So again, try to manage your stress during the day. Not enough rest, downtime. So again, downtime can be different for everyone. And this can be something that happens during the day. And keep this in mind, that even if you think that you're not sleeping at nighttime as much as you want to be, the fact that you're just lying down and resting and letting your brain slow down, that can make you feel better during the day. So it's still worth it to lie down and, try to give yourself more downtime. Stress overstimulation. And again, this is a huge topic. All of these are huge topics. And I was mentioning these in the other slide. Irritants can deplete energy, things that you're sensitive to, genetic vulnerabilities, trauma, burnout, lack of support. So again, these are really deep topics, and I cover a lot of these topics in my book and a lot of my other content. And again, I might go a little bit deeper here in this webinar as we go on. So how to improve your energy, manage your stress. This works both for burnout and chronic fatigue. So these are some of the things that work for me and some of the things that might work for you. Yoga, mind-body practices, like yoga is one of those, but you could also try Tai Chi, Qigong. What about forest bathing? It's really up to you. Meditation, you could try restorative yoga. Self-care is an umbrella term. Self-care could be all of the above, all of these things. Play. For some people, play improves their energy and helps them relax. Downtime, rest, and I'm sure you can fill in the rest here. Some people, just taking themselves offline, whether it's, just mentally and not working, not literally working, but just allowing yourself to get more into the play zone, right? Like or the creative zone, that can improve your energy. It gives your mind a chance to rest. And then you can get rejuvenated by playing. You can get rejuvenated by rest, but it doesn't always have to be downtime. It can be uptime that's more play-oriented or creatively oriented. And again, reducing or removing irritants, eating well, and eating real food to fortify your body with nutrition that can really help improve energy. Nutritional deficiencies take time to develop, so give yourself time to improve them as well. But that can make a huge difference, and it can be subtle too, but it does make a difference. And it literally fortifies your body. It's like a foundation for your body. Nutrition. Mellow movement can build energy. There's a lot more I could say about that, but I find this to be really true, especially if you're feeling super depleted and there's not much you can do. You could try restorative yoga. You could try like a super mellow class, whether it's Tai Chi or Qigong, or like a very slow flow yoga, or like I was talking about, maybe like forest bathing, or maybe just you could try chair yoga, or maybe just sit in the sun by a window, or listen to some music, or maybe just walk around a little, or stretch. You could stretch on the ground. Social support is really big. That can make you feel better on so many levels. Creates oxytocin, can create dopamine. Dopamine can give you energy. There's so much that can help you with social support. So energy comes from your reserves, like nutritional reserves, and from sleep. Getting that sleep. Resilience. When your body has a reserve of nutrition, and it has a reserve of getting enough sleep, when it has a reserve of enough support, then you have resilience. Resilience is really critical for well-being. When we lose resilience, this is when our bodies start to fall apart. So think of fortifying yourself on all levels of being, mind, body, and spirit, as much as you can. Again, nutrition is really big. Self-care can improve energy, community, downtime. This could be rest, play, deep sleep, fill in the blank. Think of it as offline time too, playtime. Nature to me is one of the antidotes to tech. And it's one of the antidotes to living in the modern world, and also reconnecting with one another. Those are two of the bigger things I think that can really help. And both of them can help you slow down too. We need more slow time. We need more downtime. And then also, what moves you can give you more energy. What's going to give you passion? What makes you passionate? That can give you energy. So the habit of stress. If you can interrupt your pattern of stress with a positive habit, you will start to feel better and then make better choices. And remember, what I was talking about with habits is, if you're going to replace a habit, so again, you might have a habit of being stressed, for instance. You want to think of a positive habit or another habit that you can replace with that pattern of stress, something that you're going to do, you're going to do. And it can take time to figure out. But that is, we want to replace the habit of stress with another more positive habit. It could be play, for instance. It could be being more creative. It could be going offline more and, just getting into the creative zone. Interrupting stress creates more energy. And again, that's a really loaded sentence. There's a lot more I could say about that, but we've been covering this a little bit. And again, I talk all about energy in my book, The Memory of Health. So instead of a habitual habit of stress, create habits of, how about hope, or relaxation, or positivity, self-care? How about connection? How about getting back to nature? How about cultivating downtime or slow time? All of these can help you gain ground and build that resilience and improve your peace and mental health. You can also try coaching if you need help creating more sustainable habits. And yes, I do coaching as well. So managing stress. Again, I was mentioning this. You want to manage stress to sleep better. You want to manage stress to improve your energy. You want to interrupt your patterns of stress. And you can also learn to interpret your stressors differently There's something called positive stress, which is eustress. And sometimes what we deem stressful, we can reinterpret and can actually be motivating for us. So that has to do, I believe, with the flow state too, a little bit, is kind of going up to the upper edge of what we're capable of or what motivates us without getting overstressed about it. That can create that eustress and flow state. So health facts: 1 in 3 Americans don't get enough sleep. 98 million Americans are pre-diabetic. It could be more by now. Less than 5% of people engage in healthy behaviors that prevent diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. That statistic might be a little bit different now, but that one really jumped out to me. I mean, all of these do, really. So then again, these are for that people that really like statistics. According to the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, 133 million Americans, 1 out of every 2 adults, have at least one chronic illness. So I work with people who have chronic illness. I have a Facebook page and group. It's for chronic fatigue support. You can come check us out on there or ask me how to join us. It's a really, really engaged group. It's for people with chronic fatigue, and a lot of people on there have more than one chronic condition. And so it's a source of support. We all get together and support one another. Childhood illness and obesity are on the rise, and 1 in 3 kids are expected to get type 2 diabetes. So these are really shocking statistics. So I was talking about hope versus uncertainty. So here we are. We live in this modern world where there's so many uncertain things going on. There's so much that we can't control. And so one thing that I really loved that I ran across is the concept of focusing on the habit of hope and creating a habit of hope. And again, this is not my idea. I don't want to say this gentleman's name incorrectly. Dan J. Tomasulo. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. So this is his idea and research. Just like other habits we can create and maintain, we can create a habit of hope. So here are some ways to do this. And again, this is this gentleman, R. Brooks, I think built on this research by Tomasulo. Focus on what you can control versus what you can't control. This can build hope. Try to see the positive in all situations. Hope can come from even the darkest of times. And oftentimes when things are really difficult, that's when we look for hope. Help others to create hope in them and you. So by helping other people, you can create hope in yourself. And again, I might be talking a little bit more about this but this is a habit that you can start to create. The modern and digital age. Our world is evolving at an unprecedented speed. I mean, we all know this. We can see it now with AI. I've actually done AI training, and it amazes me how quickly, even just a little bit that I contributed, I can see how much it's evolved in the last year and a half. We're living in exponential times here. But let's not forget that we are humans with human needs. Let's create more downtime and slow time. We will address how to reduce your stress, improve your energy and confidence, and even work experience. But first, let's look deeper at some of the effects of living in the modern digital age. And I may have spelled this incorrectly. I think I did. Yeah. Effects, the way it should be used is a noun. I think that's with an E. It should be with an E. Okay, tech versus nature. I was talking about this. So tech moves us forward. We definitely need it. It's amazing. It's changing our lives. However, one thing, we can't let it overtake our lives either. And let's not forget that we are human. I really love the balancing effect. See, here I'm using the word correctly. That's how I should have spelled it before. This is a noun. Anyway, I have a degree in English, and anyway, so we all make spelling errors, but I really love this point: the balancing effect of nature and connection with each other and ourselves. That can be a real balancing effect for the effects of tech. Nature makes us more intelligent and creative. Richard Louv. The Nature Principle. I highly recommend this book. He talks about So many things related to nature, highly, highly recommend. So connection with ourselves, others, and the world. So again, I mentioned this quote before: connection is the currency of well-being. Make bids toward one another, strengthen your relationships, even if they're not perfect. Make bids toward strengthening them. Connect to yourself more. You can do this through meditation, yoga, mind body fitness. And I do a lot of content on my YouTube site, like meditation videos. You can just watch the meditation video and let that be your guided meditation. And it's got like, I have a lot of like nature images. I have really mellow music. And of course, you can find a bunch on YouTube. And you can use that as a way to help you meditate just by watching those videos. I love to get out in nature and forest bathe, like I was mentioning. Another really big one I think is really important is try to see the bigger picture. This is called perspective in counseling. So I studied counseling for several years, and one of the most important things that stood out to me, there were a couple things that really stood out to me, but one of them was learning about how when kids are young, they start learning about perspective. And the more that you can have a bigger perspective about the world, this is one of the reasons people travel, is so that you can see the bigger picture. Another way to do this is by cultivating awe. If you connect with nature, you're going to start to see the bigger picture more and be reminded. Fear versus confidence in yourself, etc. How to face your fear. This is one of the ways we get stuck and maybe can't feel that sense of peace if we're constantly in a state of fear. Mindfulness meditation can be really helpful to overcome fear. It's where you just focus on your breath. Just notice your inhales and exhales. Just notice your breathing. And if you notice your mind start to wander, just draw it gently back to your breath. That's mindfulness meditation in a nutshell. This is something else I learned in grad school and counseling. And it was something else that really stood out to me. It can be really, really useful for mitigating fear. And practicing yoga for me really helps to create that mindfulness. Yoga is all about creating mindfulness and being more present and creating a sense of connection with yourself and the world, the others and others in the world. The opposite of fear is presence, in my opinion. And this leads to possibility. When you are present, and then you start to experience a greater sense of perspective and even awe, and keep an open mind and see that world view, you can start to see possibility, and then fear starts to fade. And I just learned this in my latest coaching training. You can start to expand your kind of safety net, right? And kind of expand your boundary, like your safety boundary. So you kind of live within that space where you're always allowing just a little bit more in. You can work with fear. There's so much you can do with it. And if you need help with a coach or a counselor, you can reach out to me or someone else, and they can help you. We can help you kind of move within that move outside that boundary where you're always feeling safe, but you can expand your sense of possibility. So fear is our default, but we can train ourselves to be more present, positive, and hopeful, even in uncertain times. And confidence comes from taking action, and it builds self-efficacy, which makes you feel like you can do things. And you can do that from not only taking action yourself, but from having role models, seeing other people do well, that gives you confidence. So overcoming fear, on the other side of fear are peace and possibility. You can try mindfulness, yoga, mind-body movement, like I was mentioning. Mind-body practices can really tame the fear response so you can access the present moment more. I highly, highly recommend trying them. And again, I create a lot of content on my YouTube channel. It's my handle is at mydailywell. The name of the channel is Wellbeing TV, but the handle is at mydailywell. I create a lot of yoga videos, meditation videos, how-to videos on mind-body practices. And I'm all about helping you be more present, reduce your stress, create more peace. Your mental health, peace, and clarity of mind are worth it. Remember that. Nothing is worth stressing over that depletes your vitality and your resilience. Nothing. So presence equals possibility. Like I was mentioning, the more present you can be, the more you can access possibility. Be present to what is possible. Confidence comes from taking action. I was mentioning this. When we take action, we build confidence. Believe in your ability to be successful. Believe in your ability to be peaceful. By taming our stress, we can feel more confident to take action. And I would also say we can feel more confident to be happy. So working well. In terms of work, invest in your rest. There's a lot more I could say about this. I have other webinars that go much deeper into this, but invest in your rest prior. And this is not my idea, by the way, but I really love this concept. Prioritize rest, breaks, what works for you. And working in a culture of empathy, openness, and innovation. Again, I have other webinars that go really, really deep into these topics. I'm hoping that we're really headed there. We're going to do better overall when we have workplaces that are based on empathy and openness and innovation. There's so much that managers can do. Managers can learn how to be coaches. And again, these are topics that I talk about in some of my other webinars, and really kind of cultivate empathy at work and openness, open communication, work and well-being balance. Find what balance is for you. Rest is your balance to work. Rest is, like we mentioned, rest, play, downtime, offline, deep sleep, and fill in the blanks. It's what works for you. Just start to find a balance. People are craving this more and more these days, and we should be. It's absolutely critical to our peace and clarity and well-being. Invest in your rest. Here we go. I talk about this just a little bit more here. So you want to think of going offline more for downtime. So you want to balance out uptime with downtime. Rest makes you more resilient, creative, and productive. You can get more done when you take care of yourself. Think of it as investing in your downtime. Here's the reference from McKinsey. Invest in your rest. Really, really critical. Again, I go much deeper into this in another one of my webinars for the for corporate wellness and just for the workplace. How to sleep better, really big topic. Invest and prioritize in your rest, play, sleep and downtime. Go offline when you need to in order to recharge. If you have deadlines, go to bed early and get up early to work. I love doing this one. This one is something I do all the time. Go to bed early, start to build that melatonin early. You get your best sleep early in the evening and earlier in the night. So go to bed early and then you can get up and tackle it again. Try to stay off your devices 1 hour before sleep because they are stimulating your brain. They can interfere with melatonin production. Stay away from blue light, which includes your phones, or you can adjust the light on your phones too, but and you know what's maybe keeping you awake, but you'd be surprised too. You can experiment with it. Get early morning sunlight. This can really, really help you sleep better at night. Huge. Get as much sunlight as you can. Actually, you want to get that early morning sunlight can really help, but even as the sun is still out, get as much sun as you can, even if it's streaming through the windows. It can help you sleep better and deeper. Try to exercise during the day to sleep better. This can create sleep pressure. If you have a chronic condition, that might be a different topic. Sometimes you can add gentle movement in. Anything helps. And again, if you can't because you have a chronic condition, then that's totally okay. Eat well to keep nutrition up. It helps you sleep. Absolutely, like magnesium, for instance. And again, try to minimize your stress during the day and try not to stress about what you can't control, which is so much of what this modern world is, right? Is there's so much that we can't control. Let's talk about loneliness a little bit. This is something I've dealt with extensively, and I know a lot of people have. It's really interesting to me that a lot of people started experiencing loneliness after the pandemic happened. Because we were all kind of forced to stay at home, and some people were living by themselves, or sometimes in some cases, people were living with abusive partners and they were kind of stuck with them. And, a lot of things changed with the pandemic. But for some people who had chronic conditions and other situations were already experiencing this. Loneliness is considered an epidemic. It has the same risks as heart disease and smoking. It's really, really important to connect. It's actually the number one thing. Connection is key. A recent study found, maybe not so recent now, but it's actually might still be going on. Actually, this is tied to another one of the bigger studies done by Harvard. A recent study done that found that one of the most negative things that impacts health is loneliness. It actually suppresses the immune system. So there's that part of it. But then also, here's the Harvard study, the longevity project. I believe this might still be ongoing. And to be honest, I'm not sure it's connected to this one, but it might be because, a lot of this research that's done is kind of builds off of one another and references one another. So, but don't quote me on that. That may not be related. It is related in terms of the topic, though. So connection is the currency of well-being. Again, here's one of my favorite quotes by John Travis. And here's the Harvard study talking about the number one thing that increases quality of life are close relationships. Remember this. This is super, super important. This is the most important thing. Again, we are social well-beings, and one of the missing factors in the modern world is that we are disconnected. Our phones are making us disconnected. Again, I love tech. Tech is wonderful, but it's disconnecting us too. We need to get reconnected to one another and also to ourselves. But this is a project, a study, a research study. I think it's still ongoing. Don't quote me on that, but I think it might be. We live in a world of constant connection, yet often we feel disconnected, lonely, and often too ashamed to seek real, genuine, and lasting connections. And yet it is so critical to your well-being and your energy and your peace of mind and your mental health. And also, again, our nervous systems are overstimulated. Nature, downtime, and connection can all help us to de-stress and rebalance. Remember the power of community, make bids to others. And remember the power of creating healthy habits and rituals, meaning like self-care habits and rituals that you are going to do every day. You have to remind yourself to do them. We call those motivational triggers in coaching. Set up reminders. It could be inspirational quotes, motivational quotes, anything that's going to remind you to take care of yourself is really, really important. And then figure out, what are those healthy rituals? What are those healthy habits that you can practice on a regular basis that are going to keep you in balance? And remember this too, but tied back to that earlier research, support and interaction with people creates resiliency. It affects your DNA and immunity. That's huge. And again, remember, resiliency is tied to everything. When we lose our resiliency, that's when we start developing health issues and much more. How to build resilience. Just remember this. First, you are still here. So you are resilient. Resilience is what keeps you alive, literally. On the very kind of extreme end of it, when people lose resilience, that's when they die. So do everything you can to build yourself up on all levels. It's super, super important, and you're worth it. Focus on building up your reserves, sleep, nutrition, community, self-care, exercise, movement, nature, sunlight. Create a habit of hope for emotional resilience. Try to see the brighter side. Try to at least believe that the dark times won't last. Try to at least believe that, and grow your support system as much as you can. How and why we get stuck. So even though we're talking about all these different tactics that we can try, we can still get stuck. And these are some of the bigger ways that I've seen that people get stuck. Shame, stress, and story. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each one of these. So secret fears and stories that we tell ourselves. We tell ourselves that we're not worthy. We tell ourselves we're not good enough. We tell ourselves we're not capable. And there's so much more I could say about this. Here's my story. When I was young, I had a lot of energy, but I also had a lot of fear. I feared I wasn't good enough. And then I developed health issues in my early 20s. I had a ski accident and I had surgery. I had arthroscopic surgery. And all of a sudden, I lost my energy and I had to I had to find the motivation and the drive and the determination to figure out what was going to help improve my energy. I had to believe in myself enough and believe I was worth it enough to believe in my health and well-being enough to try and figure out what was going to work for me. I had to change. What are the antidotes? So self-compassion, both for yourself and others, that can really help with shame. Self-acceptance can really help with shame. Accept who you are. No one is perfect. And believe that you're worthy. You are worthy and you are good enough. Those are givens. Don't believe the lies that your fear-based brain is telling you about yourself. You are more than good enough. You are more than worthy. In terms of story, it's really helpful to be not attached to your story. I think it's really helpful to share your story because you can help others and yourself, but don't be attached to it. And mindfulness, staying more in the present moment. And again, I like to practice mindfulness through yoga, but there are many ways to practice it. Being present is really practicing mindfulness. That can help you be less attached to your story and just be more in the present moment. Community and connection, both to yourself, others in the world, can help you. Creating a habit of hope can help you. And again, all of these can help you move out of shame, stress, and story. Allow compassion, dissolve the fear that you are separate from others. I think this is really, really important because, again, I feel like more and more we're feeling disconnected from others and even from ourselves. Allow self-compassion. Remind yourself that you are worthy of others' love. You're worthy of your own love. And none of us are perfect, but we're all worthy of love and connection and happiness and peace of mind. We're all worthy of that. The modern world and digital age, we have an opportunity to connect worldwide now. That's what the beautiful thing about it is, I think. With the internet, with all of it. The upside is we have opportunities to connect with each other around the globe now. And I really feel like we're starting to build a world community too. I can really feel that. There's so many different ways that we can do that through different apps and communities. And we really are growing that now. And I can feel it. I hope you can too. Remember that we are all connected. We have to reconnect to our deep connection with one another, both in person and online. Your pain and experience are actually your potential. This is something that I've learned over time and has dawned on me. I've experienced a lot of pain and suffering, let's say, through developing chronic fatigue or having gone through domestic violence. I think a lot of us have gone through a lot of trauma. We've all faced a lot of trauma now in this modern age. But try to transform your pain and experience into your potential. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this in a coming slide coming up here. But again, here, let's try to focus on creating a habit of hope and try to focus on what you can control. Beyond fear, your potential is limitless. So here, we're going to talk a little bit more about changing your habits, and then we'll talk a little bit deeper about how you can transform your pain into your potential. Again, there was that longevity project. Oh yeah, here it is. It's an 80-year study. It's ongoing. Remember, connection to others, our relationships are the most powerful thing for our well-being. Being conscientious keeps you well. So being I like to think of it as being consistent with your health habits that can keep you well. Practice consistency and mindfulness. Carve out those daily rituals and habits of renewal and self-care. This is what's worked for me, and it can make a huge difference for you in terms of your peace and health and wellness. Remember, consistency is key. It's the key to change. And compassion and community can help you stay consistent. We can help one another be consistent about our habits. Let's help each other create better habits of hope, self-care, connection together. Engaging in regular, healthy behaviors, healthy rituals, both with ourselves and each other. This makes a difference. It's what we do for ourselves and our bodies on a regular basis that creates what they call neuroplasticity and well-being. Neuroplasticity is your brain's literal ability to change and grow and heal. And also, I love this. Notice and celebrate your wins, all of them, big and small. I believe this is a practical form of mindfulness. And again, remember, mindfulness is about being in the present moment. And we want to do everything we can to lift ourselves up and remind ourselves of what we've accomplished, what's going right, whether it's your habits that you're trying to change, maybe you're trying to cultivate more hope. Notice whenever you have success and celebrate it. The power of daily habits. Remember that change lies in the present moment. It is mindful and proactive. Remember to carve out those daily rituals of renewal. It can make a huge difference in your peace of mind, clarity, mental health, and well-being, and energy. Make time to be well. So again, maybe your time to be well is getting outside and playing. It's downtime. Maybe you need to rest. Maybe you need to do restorative yoga or just go to bed earlier. Or I love to watch movies. I'm a huge movie fan. I love stories. I love to nature walk. Do what works for you. Make that time to be well. It makes all the difference. And we need that. We need that counterpoint to this modern world, both in terms of tech and being online. We need the counterpoint of downtime, offline time, outside time, connection with self and others. And have the confidence to change. Take small steps, set small goals. Start where you are, try one small thing. And again, try to switch out a habit for a different habit that you know you're going to do and like. So let's take an example of food. If you're going to change out a food that you know, like maybe isn't so good for you, try to find a healthier version of that food. That's an example of switching out a habit that doesn't work for you. Let's say a food that's full of sugar, and maybe you're going to find something that still tastes really good, but has less sugar. That's an example of switching out a habit and doing a small step. Do what works for you so you can build your own sense of self-efficacy or confidence and belief in your ability to do things. Do what works for you. Super, super important on all levels. And build up your confidence in your ability and belief in yourself to change for the better. And I love this quote by Mel Robbins. Confidence is the willingness to try. Just try. Make time to de-stress and reconnect. This will be different for everyone again. I love this. No agenda. Unstructured time. Rest, play, downtime, connection. Reconnect with one another and yourselves. Reconnect with nature. Here I mentioned forest bathing. Go at the pace of nature. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. This is one of my favorite quotes. I love to forest bathe, like I was mentioning. I love forest medicine. It can be a walking meditation. It can be a form of mindfulness. It's intentional time spent either with trees and also just being outside and in nature. It's also a great way to kind of have rest time without doing anything, right? Like you're just kind of walking without really doing anything. It also reduces your stress. It reduces your blood pressure. Exercise in general helps boost your immune system and cardiovascular system. These are super, super important, especially as you get older. You want to do everything you can to take care of your cardiovascular system, both in terms of nutrition, fruits and vegetables, and exercise and reducing your stress. It's super, super important. This is the number one killer is heart disease. So really take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is critical. Try to find those motivational factors that are going to keep you motivated to take care of yourself. So I love forest bathing again, because look at this. Look at all these beautiful things that it does. It also improves your clarity of thought, your energy, your mood, your creativity, even brainstorming and connection with the world. All of this just from forest bathing. You can find your favorite activity and also think about what is your way back to well. Again, it's going to be different for everyone. Think of what your way back to well might be. Find it and practice it. How can you personally create more hope, clarity, and peace of mind for yourself? That's a question for you, and it's just something to think about. What is your way back to well? And I don't know that I put this in this one. I don't think I did. Yeah. And in one of my other webinars, I mentioned that I was going to talk a little bit more about, let me circle back to this since I don't seem to have it in here. There's the idea of, let's see if I can find it. Well, it's the idea of the lotus flower, and it's about, I know, I was going to talk about, see if I can find it in here. It's about moving from fear to possibility. I think it's further down here. Let me see if I can find it. And one of my favorite metaphors about it, we'll just stay on this one. One of my favorite metaphors is the metaphor of the lotus. So you can use everything that's happened to you, all of your pain and trauma and suffering, you can use it as a foundation. And it can be, just the goal is to transform it into just experience. Like, it gives you more wisdom, it gives you experience. And then think about the lotus flower. The lotus flower grows in mud, and yet it reaches and rises up toward the sun. So that's how I like to think of transforming suffering and pain and trauma into just pure experience and potential. Just think of the metaphor and the image of a lotus growing in the mud. The mud is all of your life experience, all of it, the good and the bad, the ugly, all of it, and how you can just use all of that as a foundation of wisdom and then reach and rise toward the sun anyway, just like the lotus. So I thought that I had put that in here, but I don't think I did. Yeah, here we go. I should have put that in here right after this. Think of it this way. Your pain experience are actually a foundation for you, and they're your potential. You always want to think about potential versus pain. How can you grow and rise regardless? Finding your way back to well. And then here are some takeaways. Investing in yourself, invest in rest, rebalance with nature, people, connections, self-care, create a habit of hope, focus on what you can control. Know your life and well-being are worth it. Tame fear to be open to peace, presence, and possibility. And you can move out of stuckness, story, and shame and more into possibility. Practice self-compassion. That will help you get there. And remember, when it comes to creating a habit of hope, this is what's key. Just focus on what you can control. Focus on what's going right. Build up your reserves on all levels to be resilient. Nutrition, sleep, connection, self-care, downtime, offline time, outside time, all of it. And seek connection and community, make bids. And then know that you have the confidence to change. And the confidence comes from taking action. Make the intention to take care of yourself and to honor your life. Know that you can create peace and resilience. Here's some actionable steps to take. Go offline more, reconnect with nature, yourself, and others, invest in your rest, interrupt your patterns of stress, prioritize downtime, prioritize your mental health, peace, and clarity of mind, peace of mind. Make bids, create that habit of hope, and create your own personalized steps toward more peace and clarity. And seek help if you need it, whether it's through a coach or a counselor or beyond. This is my book, The Memory of Health. You can type this address in, it'll take you straight to my book page. And again, I wrote this book for anyone who has chronic fatigue for any reason, but it's also a memoir on well-being. I cover my whole story of what happened to me and how I developed chronic fatigue, but also the trauma that I went through in terms of, I mentioned briefly, domestic violence. I've been through a lot of trauma. And I've had to learn to create well-being and energy and peace and resilience in my own life. I've had to learn to eat well, learn how to cook, and learn how to take care of myself and learn how to build confidence. So my book is very comprehensive. It's for anyone who's also looking not only to potentially improve their well-being, but an energy, but holistic well-being in general. If you're looking for ways to improve your energy or well-being holistically, I recommend The Memory of Health, A Journey to Well-being. It's super comprehensive, and you can write to me if you would like more information, or just check out, you can just type in this link, and there's a ton of information on there. There's a ton of theories in the book on chronic fatigue, CFS, and a ton of tips and theories on what may help improve your energy and well-being. Lots of resources, lots of research and references. Thank you so much for attending. Feel free to stay in touch. And then we don't have Q&A live coaching here. I'm just going to come back here and let's see if I can get back. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And I hope this was helpful for you. And I'll talk to you soon. Take really good care and feel free to reach out. Bye-bye.